What's up guys, Mike Thomas, aka the Young Trishula here, and we are back with another video. I know it's been a little while since the last time I posted a video, but I thought it had been a little bit too long, so I'm back here to talk to you guys today about my favorite deck, Dragon Link, as it did get some new support. As many of you probably know, we finally got Borrelend Dragon in the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. I really think Borrelend changes a lot for the deck. It actually makes the deck quite a bit better than you might expect. A lot of people are saying, oh, Dragon Link's dead, oh, Dragon Link is copium, and I don't think that's really the case. I think the deck is actually really strong. It has a much better Despia matchup than I anticipated, and I really wanted to take this deck to the Iowa Regionals this past weekend to kind of show it off, because I was pretty confident in this list, but unfortunately, as you might be able to hear from my voice, I've been pretty sick this past week, so I unfortunately did not get the chance to go. So even though I wasn't able to play the deck this past weekend, I did want to show it off. I wanted to show off a couple quick combos and also show off the deck list that I had planned on taking. So let's hop into it with a couple quick combos before we start talking about the deck itself. Remember, if you do enjoy this kind of content, please do drop this video a like or subscribe to the channel. It does help me out a lot and helps the channel grow. So if you want to support me or this content, be sure to give the video a like or remember to subscribe. Okay, so the first combo that we have here is a brand new bread and butter combo that is going to end you on a minimum of 3 negates and a Papega Mill. All you're going to need for this is Water Enchantress plus Red Rose. This is a Red Rose Adventure combo. Not a huge surprise considering the amount of resources we need to summon the Borrelend Dragon, but they get the job done, so we are using them. So let's start it off here. We're going to banish our Water Enchantress, get rid of our Amiser. All very common stuff that I'm sure you've seen a million times by this point. We will trigger our Fateful by summoning the Red Rose, get our Draco back. Use Fateful, pitch Draco back for Wandering Griffin Rider, trigger our Draco back, and trigger our Griffin Rider, specialing out the Griffin, equipping the Equip spell, making Baronne de Fleur, so now we are protected from Nibiru for this combo, even though people are not playing it, which is another great thing about this deck right now, is that since people are not playing Nibiru, this can actually interrupt basically any other hand trap. So we can then trigger our Red Rose, it'll get Rocks, Rocks will get Basil, all very standard so far. Now, we're immediately going to link these two off into Hulk. We're not going for Shooting Riser Dragon here, since if we would not have enough materials to make a board, so we would need an extender to go into that Shooting Riser and dump snow. So we are going to go for Halky Fibrax, summon out another Red Rose from our deck, since it's pretty useless at this point. Go for our Striker Dragon. Striker can get us our boot. We'll then use our Basil Rose, get our Rocks back. Go for Pisty. Pisty can get back our Rocks Rose. And then we can turn those two into Romulus, going into Romulus a little bit later here in the turn now. Getting our Dragon Ravine, playing Dragon Ravine, pitching any card to get our Tracer. Obviously we would send Absorouter, I just forgot to do it here. We would play our Boot Sector, special Tracer, Tracer pops Boot, and specials the Recharger from deck. We then go for Papega. Papega can mill 5 cards, and as you can see here, Dragon Link loves me, so we mill Absolutely Broken, milling our Fairy Tale Snow anyway. I'm going to add Magician Souls, which we will talk about when we get into the deck profile portion of the video. And then we are going to link off, making sure to keep the Striker Dragon on field, into our Borrelend Dragon. Now, after we've summoned our Borrelend Dragon, we're going to use Striker to pop itself and grab that Recharger. Recharger can summon back Tracer, and then we'll use Borrelend, negating the Tracer, getting back the Recharger, and ultimately going for the Savage Dragon. So off of this, we have gotten 3 points of interactions, 3 negates, as well as 1 card added off of the Papega Ruler. If you are an absolute unit with this deck, as I am, you will also mill Fairy Tale Snow, because this deck will never punish you. So I would say pretty solid end board. But let's say that you always want to have this Fairy Tale Snow. Let's say that Dragon Link doesn't love you like it loves me. So for this combo, it's going to be exactly the same as the last combo, except you just need any extender. I'm using Water Enchantress here, since I think it is the least impactful extender in the deck. So let's start with our Rite of Armiser once again, getting our Fateful. getting our Red Rose and Draco back, getting our Griffin as we did before, and going for Borrelend once again. All this same as before, We get our Basil, we special summon out our Water Enchantress. Now we're going to turn our Rocks Rose plus the level 4 token into the Shooting Riser Dragon. This will allow us to send the Fairy Tale Snow to grave, and now we are free to link off for Halki Fibrax and continue the play the same as before. So I'm going to put this on fast forward now, since this is all the same stuff. Again, make Striker Dragon, go into Pisty, get back our guy, make Romulus, go for Ravine, pitch 1, get Absolrouter, Boot Sector, Special Tracer, Pop, Recharger, Pepega Mill, grab an Extender because your deck loves you, go for Borrelend, tag out, turn into Savage. And now you have once again gotten your 3 points of interaction, but this time you have guaranteed set up a Snow in your graveyard. The other thing that is nice about this combo, and the reason that I would like to go for it whenever I do see that Extender, is that if you do get disrupted, you are now guaranteeing that you have a light monster in your graveyard for this Pepega to use and come back with. So you will be able to set up this board with a bit more ease through disruption, which is always nice. And as you can see, we still have that Pepega, we found an Extender, so we do have a lot of options here, so you would be able potentially to go further. Sometimes I've found that you're able to get a Seals along with this board, and sometimes I've found that you are able to get another card, being the Herald of Arclight, along with this field. Now that I've shown off kind of these two standard baseline combos, let's go and talk about the deck itself. So this here is the list that I did put together for the Iowa Regional when I was planning on going to it. As you can see, it's named Dragon Link Iowa. However, I was not able to go. So let's go through the list. The list is a pretty standard 10 card adventure core to begin with. I'm counting the Foolish Burial as part of the adventure core, as the only other real card that you would want a Foolish Burial in this deck is Absolrouter, maybe Fairy Tale Snow. So, but for the most part, it is sending the Water Enchantress. Next we have the Rockets, standard 5 Rockets. We do play one copy of Rocket Synchron in this list, just because it is an alright top deck in the mid-game if you do get pushed into a mid-game scenario, in order to summon back an Absolrouter and maybe go for a Dark Charmer or something like that. Though for the most part, I don't think Rocket Synchron is nearly as good as it was previously, because this list has had to change some things up in the extra deck. Even though I didn't sort the deck in a way that was cohesive to talking about it, we did also play the 1 Absolrouter and the 3 Quick Launch. We have cut down the Absolrouter to 1 just for consistency and space, because we have added some new garnets into the deck, and the 3 Quick Launch stays as always just as a way to maximize your chance of seeing Tracer in your opening hand, so that you do not have to go through hoops to get it by going for Romulus. After that, we've got the 3 Chaos Space plus 2 Babies package. This is very standard. You want to see these two because it's just a free 2 bodies plus a draw plus a way to put back your Striker Dragon if you do not happen to start on the Chaos Space and just mill it in the mid game off of a Pepega or something. Very important for resource management, very good extenders, absolutely crucial for the deck. Next thing to talk about is the Red Rose engine, being the 3 Red Rose Dragons, 1 Rocks Rose, and a Basil Shoot. Because you need so much material in order to summon the Borrelend Dragon, these I find are the preferred normal summon in the Dragon Link deck right now, simply because this gives you 3 bodies on its own if you were able to synchro off the Red Rose, which is already putting you to 3/5 of the way to summoning your best monster, which is very nice. Another thing that's really nice about the Rose Dragon package is because these are level 3 Dragon Tuners, they synergize very well with Magician Souls. Magician Souls itself synergizes very well with the Adventure package, netting you a free 2-card draw if you see it in combination with Rite of Arameser. Well, while Magician Souls also allows you to make the extended version of the play that I just showed off that allows you to guarantee dump Fairy Tale Snow, it also allows you to start the play in a different way where if you draw Magician Souls plus Red Rose Dragon, you're able to basically do the first combo line by going for Herald of the Arclight first and then summoning your Rox Rose and setting up from there. The only problem with starting your line this way is that if you have to go for Dragoon Knight Romulus, you might be in a little bit of trouble not being able to send your Absol Router to the graveyard. However, Herald of the Arclight is very strong in the Despia matchup as it's going to limit the cards that they can send to their graveyard, which is always nice, and it also disrupts cards like Forbidden Droplet, which can be kind of annoying to deal with for this deck at times. Rounding out the deck, we have the 2 field spells that we always have to play. We have our 1 Fairy Tale Snow because it is one of the few light targets in the deck, but also because it is just extremely oppressive. I think if your deck is not playing Fairy Tale Snow in this format, I'm not really sure what you're doing. This card is very strong, very good in this metagame. And then finally, 4 defensive slots. Now, these 4 defensive slots could be expanded potentially up to 8 by cutting the Magician Souls package. However, I feel this package is very strong in this deck and boosts the consistency quite a bit, especially when you see Magician Souls plus the Water Enchantress, allowing you to get a free 2-card draw right off the bat is very nice in a deck that sometimes wishes it had a little bit more card advantage. So personally, I think just these 4 hand traps are fine, because I don't think hand traps are very impactful in this format, and these hand traps are honestly probably the better ones that you could have against Despia. So that about does it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck, we have the 1 Striker, 1 Pisty, 1 Romulus, 1 Spheres, 1 Hulk, 1 Quad Borrel, and 1 Dark Charmer. These have pretty much been staple in the deck for a while now. Much to talk about. Same with the Unicorn and Access Code for the OTK packages, these being a lot easier to facilitate lethal than Borrel's Sword in this current metagame, especially thanks to the new Dark Charmer Gloomy. And finally, for the last link monster, we have the Borrelend Dragon, the newest card from Ghost from the Past. This card is very solid. To quickly read it, if you are unfamiliar with what it does, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Neither player can target this card with monster effects. This card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, and quick effect, you can target an effect monster on the field and a rocket in your graveyard, negate the effects of that monster on the field, and if you do, special summon the rocket from your graveyard. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. So this card is kind of like an Imperm Super Poly Monster Reborn that is stapled on top of a Bujinte Susanoo that is also a Towers for some reason. This card is absolutely bonkers and is very strong. So why does this card help out Dragon Link? Well, this card helps out tremendously in the Despia matchup, being able to negate something like an Aluber or a Lubellion, and having your opponent be unable to respond with something like a Super Poly is really nice, because a lot of players might not know that about Borrelend. They might just summon their Aluber, use a Aluber effect, you chain Borrelend, they might try to chain Super Poly to clear off your field, and you say, you can't do that until afterward, and they just lose their Aluber effect and potentially lose out on their Branded Fusion altogether, which is really nice. The fact that it can also attack all monsters your opponent controls is really nice, because it can clear through a really wide Despia board and just put everything in the graveyard, and then even if you trigger the Mirror Jade effect, it's going to linger on the field and be able to negate an opponent's card effect next turn as well. You can just sit on that negate and negate a Mirror Jade on their turn, and they're not going to be able to out the Borrelend. They can't destroy it by battle or card effect, and then when it uses this effect to reborn, it can reborn back the Rocket Recharger from your graveyard, which, if there's a dark monster from the extra deck on your field, it cannot be attacked either. So you kind of create a sort of marauding captain lock on your field to where your opponent just can't kill you, and then on your next turn, you can come out swinging with the Borrelend again, use Borrelend, reborn back the Tracer, and then go into a Papega or into a Savage Dragon or whatever you still have in your extra deck. If anything, you could go into a Dark Charmer or a Quad Borrel or whatever you haven't used, and it really opens opens the floodgates for what you can do to your opponent on the follow-up. So it's actually really nice. It's really nice. I actually prefer ending on this to seals in this current metagame, simply because of how much Despia is running around and how good this card is in that matchup. For the synchros, we have Baron de Fleur, obviously, to trigger the Red Rose by synchroing with Wandering Griffin Rider. We have Herald of the Arclight to also trigger the Red Rose when paired with Magician Souls, but also just as an extra negate that you can put up when you have Magician Souls and an extra body for the Red Rose engine. And this card can come up in quite a few matchups, so definitely not something that I would want to cut immediately. I think it is potentially cuttable, but this card has come up for me enough times to where I think it's worth including in the deck. Then we do have the one Shooting Riser Dragon to send our Fairy Tale Snow. We have the Chaotic Magical Papega Ruler and our Boral Savage Dragon. Notable exclusion is the Hot Red, which was cut for this Herald of the Arclight. Moving on to the side deck, I do have the 4-card Gamma package in here. Gamma is an extraordinary hand trap that synergizes very well with Dragon Link, since the few places where you can get hand trapped in this deck usually occur before you put monsters on the field, so when you draw Gamma, you know that you're very safe, while this card also allows you to just deal with some of the more annoying decks when going second, especially with cards like DPE still floating around sometimes. Then we also put in the 3 copies of Draw and Lockbird. This is kind of a meta read, with the Allure variant of Despia being one of the more popular variants at the moment. I think Draw and Lockbird does a very good job at handling that deck, as well as other adventure strategies and strategies that we will see probably at YCS Hartford that are going to be more combo focused. Draw and Lockbird just seems like a very nice include and has been testing very well for me, so that's why I have that in there. We do have one Token Collector in the deck, since Sword Soul can be a little bit of a problem for Dragon Link on occasion. At least when they have hand traps, it's definitely not your favorite matchup, so you can put in the Token Collector to either substitute the DD Crow or the Fairy Tale Snow to either send off Shooting Riser Dragon, mill off of Papega, or for when you go second. We then have the 3 copies of Twin Twister, just to respect back row decks, since Eldritch is a thing, and this list does not play Levianeer plus Ghost Ogre, so you do not have an inherent out to skill drain outside of Dracoback. Then we play 3 Dimensional Barrier, because Sword Soul and Despia both are very heavy on one extra deck mechanic that D-Barrier can hit, so putting D-Barrier in the deck is pretty solid. And then the 1 Red Reboot, since there's just 1 extra space in the side deck. I still want to respect back row decks, but I think that this is probably the most cuttable card in the side deck. You could potentially cut this for another Token Collector, or if you were to cut the Gamma package from your list, you could cut the Gamma package plus the Reboot for either a 2 of side card, or cut those plus the Token Collector for another 3 of side card. But anyways, guys, that was the list. I hope you guys found this deck list interesting or informative. Please let me know what you think, if you think this deck is copium or not, down in the comments below. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you next time.